Hey guys, what's up? So in my continued efforts to share with you what I consider to be some of the best settings to use when you're trying to get impressive video footage with your Mavic Pro, today I have 3 more things I'd like to share with you. One of them is the setting, and the other 2 are like functions of the camera. And what I'm going to talk about today is the color settings to use, the peak focus threshold, and the histogram. Hey, thanks for stopping by the channel. If this is your first time here, this is 51 Drones and my name is Russ. Feel free to click on that subscribe button. Also click on that thumbs up button if I give you anything of value today. So first of all, let me apologize. I'm coming to you from in my kitchen today. The reason is it's raining out right now, off and on, and I really need to get this video out to you guys, and so I guess we're gonna have a little conversation in my kitchen. Well, not really a conversation. I'm gonna be the one doing all of the talking, but I apologize for the echo. But you're just gonna have to deal with it. But anyway, so this is my second video in a series of what I consider to be the best settings to use for your Mavic Pro. Now, although the Mavic Pro really isn't a professional level drone by any means, it's not like the Phantom 4 Pro or the Inspire 2 or something like that, but if you get all your settings right and if you do everything right, you can still get some pretty jaw-dropping footage out of it. Now, if you haven't watched the first video that I did, I'm gonna put it right up here. Go ahead and click on that little note card right there and watch that video first, and then come back here and continue to watch this one. So color, focus, and exposure. Those are 3 of the most important ingredients when you're trying to whip up a nice tasty batch of drone footage. So the first one I'm gonna talk about is color setting. Now, as of the making of this video, there are actually 13 different color settings to choose from on the Mavic Pro. And if you're like me, I get confused when there's too many choices. I really don't know which one to pick. And so for the longest time, I didn't know which one to use. I was either using True Color, sometimes I would use Decentralize, sometimes I would use Vivid, and my footage just wasn't there. It wasn't what I wanted it to be. And so what I did is I started doing some research, and I started researching D-Log. So long story short, right now I either shoot in Decentralize or D-Log. Now, many of you probably ask, what is D-Log? You may have heard that before, and you may have heard people say, oh, you gotta shoot in D-Log. You know, all the pros are shooting in D-Log. If you wanna get the best footage, you gotta use D-Log. It actually is true, you guys. You should really be shooting in D-Log. And the reason is, when you shoot in D-Log, there's so much more information for you to draw from when you're post-processing. And I didn't really understand it at first, but I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of an illustration here on how D-Log works or what it's like. So I'm gonna use Legos as an example. So we have a lot of Legos in this house. I've probably spent more on Legos than I have on drones. But anyway, let's say this is True Color. Okay, this is a box of True Color. You're gonna choose this for your footage and you're gonna record. And there's some information in here. You can make some cool stuff with it. So I'm just gonna whip something up here. Just so you know, I'm very skilled at Lego building. So I'm just gonna do this here. All right, so yeah, I just did that. Pretty amazing, isn't it? But anyway, so pretty cool. You can make some fun stuff with True Color. And you know, it's not great, but you can have fun with it. It looks good. People are like, oh, that's pretty cool. Now let's say you have D-Log set. This is an example of D-Log, okay? More information gives you more opportunity to be more creative. So let's see if I can whip something up with this here. Let me open this up. See what I can build here. Okay, and there we go. So you get my point. When you have more information, you can be more creative, and you can make your footage look much more impressive. You have so many more choices if you're shooting in D-Log. Now, when it comes to shooting in D-Log, you're gonna have to post-process, because when you shoot in D-Log, everything's flat and everything looks kind of dull and gray and really boring. And so what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to post-process. Now, I use Adobe Premiere CC for my processing. I've been using that for over a year, actually almost a year and a half. And the benefit of Adobe Premiere CC is a couple of things. Number one, it's really user-friendly. It's easy to learn, and it's very powerful. And there's a lot of tutorials on YouTube. You just type in whatever you need to know, and within 10 minutes, you'll have an answer and you'll know how to do it. And so that's what I choose to use. There is a monthly subscription for that. But there's some free ones out there too. In particular, there's one called DaVinci Resolve. You may have heard of that. It's a free one, and I've used it a little bit, but I don't like it as much as Adobe Premiere, so I've been using that. But if you guys want to try out DaVinci Resolve, you can do some color grading, some color correcting, and all kinds of things on there with the free version of it. I'm not going to tell you guys how to use it, but what I am going to do is recommend you to watch Tutvid. Tutvid is a video creator on YouTube that I watch regularly. He's taught me a lot on video editing techniques and things like that. And I'm going to put it right up here. Just go ahead and click on that tag. He's got a really great tutorial on the basics of DaVinci Resolve, and you guys can download that program and use that for editing your D-Log footage. Now, what if you don't want to post-process? What if you just want to shoot one of the other color settings, one of the other color profiles, and that's fine. But I would recommend just 2 different ones, actually 3. Decent-alike is okay. Actually, if you don't want to do any editing at all, True Color or Vivid. I've used True Color quite a bit before I use D-Log, and that turns out pretty good. And Vivid turns out really well, but you really need to dial down your saturation. So if you're going to choose Vivid as your color profile, make sure that you go into your style settings and change your style saturation to -2, because Vivid really bumps up those colors, really makes it kind of oversaturated. And so I always dial down the saturation if I'm shooting in Vivid, although I don't do that much anymore because I shoot in D-Log now. But if you're really serious about getting great footage out of your Mavic Pro, I highly recommend that you start shooting in D-Log and then do some color correcting and some color grading afterwards in post-processing. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention is when you're flying your drone and you have it set to D-Log and you want to see what it's going to look like after you process it, you can actually do that. You can click on this little square in the upper right-hand corner of the DJI Go 4 app, and that adds some color to it, and it kind of shows you the potential. It shows you what your footage could look like if you did some color grading on it. And so I think that's really helpful. When I shoot in D-Log, I actually toggle on that little rainbow square so I can kind of see what it's going to look like when I'm done processing it. Now, the second setting that I want to talk to you guys about, it's not really a setting, it's a function of the camera. It's called peak focus threshold. And I never used this before because I really didn't understand it. And so I'm hoping I can help you guys understand it a little bit. And I don't use it all the time, but I'll use it in situations where I want to know for sure that what I'm recording is in focus, like on active track or on point of interest. I'll make sure that I'll turn on the peak focus threshold, which shows you're going to see red all over your screen. You're going to see, flashes of red. Everything's going to be outlined in red. And what that is what you see in red is what's in focus. And so just to confirm that what I'm focusing on is in focus, I turn on the peak focus threshold. I'll set my point of interest or my active track. And then once it's in focus, I'll turn that off because it can get distracting. I don't leave it on all of the time because I think the Mavic Pro does pretty good when you do the tap to focus. And I've gotten pretty good at tapping to focus. In the past, when I first started flying my Mavic Pro, I would forget to do that, and I'd get my footage on the computer and I'd see, oh, this is really out of focus, because you can't really see on your mobile device if something is in focus. And that's where that peak focus threshold comes in handy, because it'll tell you this is in focus. You can't really see it on your screen, but when you put it on your computer, you're like, oh man, I just wasted 30 gigabytes of footage and it's all out of focus. So use the peak focus threshold. You can set the levels, but I don't know why you would ever want to set it to low or medium or whatever. I always set it to the highest one so I know exactly what's in focus. And the last thing that I want to tell you about is another function of the camera. And many of you may be using this already because I did some videos on it. If you're watching my videos, you know how valuable I think the histogram is. The histogram is probably the most important thing when it comes to getting great footage out of your Mavic Pro. Have your histogram turned on at all times. Oh, yeah. Go ahead and do that. I'll wait. Oh man, I hope they subscribe. Silver play button, silver play button, silver play button. Okay, all right, sorry about that. Thanks, I just gotta remind you guys, make sure you click on that little bell too so you know if I post a new video. But back to the histogram. The histogram basically tells you the exposure of your footage. It lets you know if something's too dark or too light. And all you have to look at is those peaks, those little mountain peaks on there. And if it's leaning to the left-hand side of the histogram, that means that everything is probably underexposed. It's gonna be too dark. And if everything is over on the right-hand side of the histogram, if those peaks are all over way on the right-hand side, that means that everything is blown out, everything's really bright. and you don't want that either. And so what you're looking for is a well-balanced histogram. You're looking for, that Pikes Peak that goes right in the middle. Of course, it's going to vary a little bit depending on the dynamic range of your scene. If you're shooting in a situation where there's a lot of darks and a lot of lights, the histogram is going to be spread out. You might have peaks on the left-hand side and the right-hand side, but for the most part, you want to have it well balanced. And if you are shooting in a high dynamic range like that, like during the golden hour, sunset, sunrise, something like that, you really should be using a gradient ND filter. And I have another video on that. I'll put that right up here if you want to click on that and see how gradient filters work. But anyway, the histogram is so important. I think you should have it on at all times because, again, it's when you're looking at it on your mobile device, even if you're using like an iPad or a Galaxy tablet or something like that, you really can't tell what the exposure is unless you have that histogram on. And when you get to post-processing, you're going to be trying to fix it with your editing software, and you're like, if it's really bad, there's nothing you can do to fix bad exposure. So if you get it right out of the camera using that histogram, you don't have to worry about it when you're processing. Now, before I let you go, there's one more thing I'm going to ask of you. I know I've been putting a lot of note cards up here for you guys to click on, but I want you to click on this one right here. There it is. And what that is, it's a video from Peter McKinnon. Now, in case you've been living under a rock for the past 2 years, Peter McKinnon is one of the greatest videographers on YouTube right now. He's just amazing. I've learned so much from him. He's entertaining to watch. And those of you who watch him and subscribe to him, you know what I'm talking about. And, he's a photographer and a videographer by trade. He does some great reviews. And this is a great drone video that he did. And it's fun to watch. And you guys can learn a lot from him. So if you're not subscribed to Peter McKinnon, go ahead and do that. Watch his videos. He's got a lot of great stuff on video editing, on techniques for getting B-roll, and like the information that he has on his channel is just unbelievable. So check out Peter McKinnon, watch that video for me. Believe it or not, if you watch that video after watching this video, it helps out this channel a little bit. I want you guys to stay on YouTube all day long after you watch this video. So I appreciate it, you guys. So to sum it all up, set your color setting to D-Log. If you're not going to do any post-processing, I recommend setting it to True Color or Vivid. Turn your saturation down if you are shooting in Vivid. And finally, turn on your peak focus threshold and your histogram to make sure that everything's in focus and your exposure is correct. Hopefully I gave you something of value today. If I did, click on the thumbs up button. If you're not subscribed, click on that subscribe button and join this community. I want to thank you guys for watching today. And as always, fly safe and fly smart.